Everything good? Ready?
Yep.
All right. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We got episode 18 here. We got Mr. JD Miller helping me out here. And we'll go ahead and let JD give let him
Oh, man,
introduce
sounds good.
himself, give a
Well,
brief
like you
description. We'll
said,
go
I'm
ahead and we'll
JD
hop into
Miller.
that career.
A lot of people will probably chime in and throw my nickname that's I've gotten since day one in the fire service around, and so a lot of people know me as Fluffy. And so I've been with the Jane Lou Volunteer Fire Department for 10 years. I've been in EMS. I've worked EMS for 10 years. That's what I do full time for a career. Um, had some really cool experiences in EMS. Started out as a firefighter, went and got my EMT, started working in an ambulance, and then a few years ago decided to go become a paramedic. So now I am a paramedic as well. Over the last year, I've had some really cool experiences. I ended up traveling for 3 months in North Dakota on a Native American reservation and working up there, kind of like a travel nurse. And then after I did that for 3 months, I ended up going to, I went from 10 miles from the Canadian border to on the Gulf of Mexico working in Southeast Texas for one of the largest ambulance services in the country that's privately owned. And I've literally got to do everything in between. I've worked hospital based, I've worked 911, I've done interfacility transports, I've done rural, I've done city, I've done both in the same night. So that's at Jane Lou. I'm currently just a senior fireman there. Plethora of classes. I've got to learn from a lot of great people throughout the state. As far on the fire side goes, same with EMS. Got to meet some really awesome people. The folks I worked for down in Texas, their training and their quality management and the way they treat paramedics and EMTs versus the way we do it in Ohio. Or I'm sorry, in West Virginia versus how they do it in Ohio versus how just it's crazy the difference. But but yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Currently, I am a community paramedic for a new startup in the state. We're in the process of finishing up our state licensure and hopefully going to be going live by the end of the month. And this company is doing great things across the country. The Ohio market's flourishing, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it because a lot of people have questions when I tell them I took a community paramedic job. And then I also work part-time for Roane County EMS. So I'm still on the truck. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of me in a nutshell.
All right, so started out in Jane Lou, right? So that was the first department.
So I
So
would have
how old
been
were you
a
when you
late
actually got
bloomer,
into the
so to
fire
speak. I
service?
turned was 26 when I joined. Um, yeah,
Wow. Okay. So
public service kind of came to me secondary. My family's got a huge military tradition on both sides. My mom's family, my dad's family, things like that. So, having some issues being a big guy, I wasn't able to join the military when I was younger. This avenue kind of came about, and now it's become my life and my career, and it's helped me see the country.
yeah. So 26. So um, so you kind of said it right there. Like you didn't have anybody that was in the fire service before. So like, what made you wanna, what kind of sparked that and said that that's something you wanted to, kind of hop into? Because a lot of people are grateful that people do it, but that's not something
Yeah,
they
I
want to,
mean, for me, it goes back
shoes
to
that
being a
they
little
want to try to
kid.
fill.
Kids want to be doctors, police officers, astronauts, things like that. Always been a fan. Fire trucks at a parade when you're a kid, you know. Um, and then, as I got older, being a big guy, a lot of people are like, "Oh, you can't do that," and that's one of my biggest motivators. for lack of a better term, hold my beer and watch this. Um, so so that's kind of why I wanted to get into it. And I've
Yeah.
always tried to help people. I've always tried to give back in different ways, and that's kind of how I landed where I did.
Mm. So, not knowing anybody, um, how
Well, I
was.
just turned
Oh, I'm sorry. So
37
how
last
old are
month,
you now? That'll kind of give us a little bit of a
so
timeline.
yeah.
Okay. So about you said 10 years. Okay. So um, started out at Jane Lou. Um, who else did I have
Keith
one that was
Talbert,
just on?
yeah,
When
neighboring
Dusty,
department to
the
Jane Lou.
okay, which is in Weston, right? Okay.
Yeah, Dusty
Nah,
started at Jane Lou.
was it
Yeah,
Dusty Lambert that
yeah.
I can't remember. Um, Dusty. That's what I thought. Somebody else started at Jane Lou too. Was it that's at Bridgeport.
I don't
Ben
I don't
Casey.
think so. Yeah, yeah. I think he's from Upshur County.
No, I'm sorry. I think he's a Buchanan guy. I think he's a Buchanan guy. Sorry. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that he started. Yeah, because I think that Casey started there, and then I think Joey Baxa, I think also, yeah,
Yeah,
came from. Well, obviously he works at Buchanan, but I think that's where he also started out. But okay, so you know, there's obviously some familiar people down there. So
it
starting
was.
out there, was that kind of eye opening? Like, kind of not being involved in anything like that with, kind of first responder, and then kind of them saying, hey man, we're gonna go on this kind of a call or this kind of a call. That's kind of a, you know,
It is.
way different, lifestyle,
I
right?
was. I knew somebody in the department. My former brother-in-law had just joined, and so that's one of the reasons I had gone down to get started. And anyhow, they're like, "Come down, hang out. We're going to go to drill." That's something that we drill every week there, and it just so happened that the first drill that I got to go to was an auto X drill. So here I am, brand new to the fire service, and they whip out a cutter and a spreader, and they're
Wow.
like, "This is what they do," and it's like, "Oh wow, this is kind of freaking cool." And kind of from that moment on, I was hooked. Um,
Yeah.
a week or two later, I got voted in at the meeting, and just started training as much as I could. And at that time, I mean, we were blessed. My fire chief was a lead instructor at WVU, and the gentleman who now is the assistant coordinator at the WVU Fire Service Extension, Matt Reed, him and Eddie taught they taught both my Fire 1 and Fire 2. So it was local people in my department helping teach the class, and um, I was hooked in the first minutes of riding in a fire truck to go to where we were cutting cars up at night.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a very cool, first, kind of introduction into that. Um,
So I
so how long
joined.
before you went and got your Fire
I
One?
started hanging out at the firehouse at the end of July. Beginning of August, I got voted in, and in November is when my Fire One class started.
No, that's pretty quick. Yeah, that's so weird how I know that obviously they try to space it because
Yeah,
what is Fire One
it's been a while.
120-hour class, give or take, like 80 hour, like 80 hours of fire and like 40 of like hazmat or something like that. But like, so give or take a 4 month class, I think, in person. So that, I know that they kind of try to schedule them to where when one class ends, there's a brief period, and then they try to start another one. So by the time you really started, kind of got a little familiarized with
Yeah,
some stuff, and your guys were able
absolutely.
to kind of prep you for it, and you were able to get into the class. Um, so that was your introduction, right? Once you got your Fire One is when
Yeah, I
they
mean,
They were
It
like,
was
"Hey, we're gonna
beneficial
kind
that
of
we
let you
drilled
start doing
every
things
week.
right."
So even though I may not get to go do stuff on calls and things like that, I'm getting my hands on tools. I'm getting my hands on rope. Learning how to, getting, I don't want to say a head start, but getting a good foundation of, SCBA and how to operate it and how to don and doff your PPE and things like that. Um,
Which is really important, because my guys that in my firehouse, um, we do have some newer. We not do want to say we have newer people. We do have younger people, but a lot of our officer lineup and stuff like that, are guys that are 20 years of experience at least, right? So they were able to really show me some good tips and tricks, and kind of you know, and drove me a little bit to where I was able to be comfortable. So when I actually did, want to go and take my fire one, um, I kind of already had a good idea of what I was doing, but it was really eye opening when you had some people that, you know, it, it was crazy to, to see them try to actually even gear up, right? Like properly put their gear on. You had people that were trying to put their mask over top of their Nomex. You had people that had trouble actually, putting their regulator onto their mask. I'm trying to think of some other things that it was crazy. I mean, you had some people um that had heads up displays in their masks,
yeah.
that their department spent a lot of money on, and they didn't even have any clue to turn them on. Right? It's yeah, and it was crazy. But that's why it's really important that even if you're not in a
Yeah.
position to be able to do anything, to kind of still
I mean,
familiarize
it's
yourself with it,
important
right?
to learn. Well, absolutely. I mean,
Uh,
you know,
Especially when you're going to take the training.
being around the fire service for a little bit, or just being around anything in general, any career, any walk of life, think about a basketball coach. They just didn't walk in and have a grand scheme of all these plays or these drills that the players have to run. No, they've had to do that and build that for years. And I mean, the same thing
Right.
goes with being a fireman. It's not like
Absolutely.
um, you come out of the womb and you know how to be a fireman. You know what I mean? You gotta learn how to roll around before you can crawl, and then you gotta crawl, and then you walk, and then we start to run. So um, just having a little bit of patience and understanding with the new folks. And of course, there's gonna be laugh moments where everyone's gonna laugh. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's a big thing, and I was blessed to have that early on in my career in the fire service. Was a lot of people who were intelligent, strong firefighters who took that time to be patient with me. Um, and helped me get to the point to where obviously I could pass fire one, fire two, and then go beyond. So
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of we're kind of taking steps towards that. You know, kind of going over it. So obviously you got your fire one. Did you
so
remember your
I
first
I
fire you ever
do,
actually got to
and
go
I
on
kind
once
of
you were able
hope
to get that?
that my chief is watching because him and I went. It was like a 6 a.m. fire. We were technically second due, and it's like a it's an old farmhouse 2 story. And we get up into this holla, and of course it's rural. It's not going to be one in town, and can't tell if it's smoke or if it's fog because it's a foggy morning in April. And yeah, we roll up, and it was a pretty good fire. We were just a crew of two that morning, so we had to wait for some more backup. I mean, being my first fire, not that we should ever go in alone, but you know what I mean. Got to have a guy at the pump panel. Um, but
Sure.
yeah, it was an experience. I mean, that was my first real big working fire that I got to participate in and actually do anything with. Um, and I learned a lot that day. Um, And one thing that I've tried to, stay with me from that fire is different departments are in different equipment. And if you're running a combination nozzle and another department is running that nozzle on your 2.5 blitz line, they may not know how to turn it off, because that combination nozzle we had on that blitz line, you could turn it on with the bail or by twisting the nozzle tip. And um, that nozzle has whipped many
Really?
people, and it whipped me that day. But yeah, that was the day I got hit with a straight stream to the chest. Um, and then it got shut off. I mean, no harm was done, but my pride was hurt a little bit.
That sounds as
Yeah,
painful
yeah,
as
no.
that sounds as
It
painful as people using pistol
it was
grips.
interesting, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, it was my first fire that I really got to do anything on, and got to witness a Blevy close up. There was a gas grill behind the back of the house that I didn't know was there, and I got to watch it go off. And it's kind of a bittersweet thing. It's kind of cool to see in person. You see the videos and fire one, fire two, but to actually see it, 20 feet from you, it's a little different.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a little butt puckering, yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I mean, you realize you kind of get to
Absolutely.
see what would have happened if you didn't notice it and you were standing right next to it, right? It kind of makes you be a little bit more aware of your surroundings. But I wanted to bring up, you made a really good point, is
Hmm.
being familiar with your mutual aids equipment, right? Um, Especially
Yeah,
because each department does things differently, also too, right? Um, it's it's really weird. Like there's a I think only one that I could really name um in Mon County that I've ever actually seen use a pistol grip, right? Which like you know which is very foreign to some people. I Me personally, I don't like pistol grips. I think that it teaches very bad nozzle control. Like
exactly.
I was always taught you never want to be up on the nozzle. Right? Like, and that's basically what the pistol grip almost forces you to do is hang on to the front of the nozzle, which
Well,
you
you
have
see
more
it.
control if you're
It's
further
like that big
back.
red button.
But
They're like, don't hit the big red button, and then all you want to do is
whatever.
hit the big red button. I mean,
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing is like if you have somebody that's not as experienced with the nozzle, right? The first thing that they do is they want to go up and they want to grab the pistol grip and say, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna hold on
yeah,
to this and I'm gonna pull the bell back and I'm gonna, open this nozzle up." Well, then you have somebody that's we'll just say like you're not used to somebody pumping you because we may flow 135, 140 psi out of our fog nozzles. You know what I
right.
mean? And maybe your department's not used to that high at psi. Well, then then next thing I know, you're on your ass because of the nozzle control, right? I mean, you don't have as much control. You're literally on the front of this thing trying to basically not let it pull you backwards, not let it pull out of your arms. So, um, like I said, that's just kind of an idea that I have is, familiarize yourself with your, you know, mutual aids, not only their equipment, but their truck layouts, right? Like, you never know that I may be like, hey, JD, uh, go ahead and grab, it's gas odor. Um, Go ahead and grab that, you know, that 2.5 crosslay, off of our truck, or rear crosslay, and you're like, okay, well, if you go back there and you're looking and you're like, well, and I'd say, well, we'll just say, I say, go ahead and grab the smooth bore. Well, if you're not familiar with what even
Yeah.
is what, if you don't climb up on the top of our truck and look, you may just pull whatever down. You never know. You may pull down a section of hose that we don't even, it's not even uh, connected, right? It could just be loosely sitting back there. Well, now you just pulled out
Yep.
a 200 foot of loose hose. Like, or you're running around our truck looking for something, and you come back 30 minutes later and you're like, well, I couldn't find it.
Yeah,
But
well,
we didn't need it
that's
30
one
minutes
thing that
later.
we
We needed
do.
it like right
We
then
used
and
to do at
there.
Jane Lou, and with me being away and traveling and stuff for works, I can't speak to current day if they're still doing it. But once or twice a year, we would drill with some neighboring departments, and
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. I mean, if you're gonna be working uh, you know, the only time that we ever mutual aid on MVAs is entrapments. So like, but
yeah.
that's when everybody needs to be on their, top of their game. But with like structure fires and stuff, obviously, you're mutual aid every single time there's structure fire. So I think that it's very important to train with your mutual aids to understand the way that each department
Oh,
functions because like I said
absolutely.
earlier,
And
we
you
can
know
do
where
things
Jane Lou
totally
sits
different than
right
you
on
do.
the county line between Harrison and Lewis County, we do go to Harrison County some. We do help those guys out. They come down and help us out. And not just operationally, but like
Mhm.
radio stuff is different. Um, they've got one thing that you can do real quick is piss off headquarters by calling them dispatch. I worked EMS. So Harrison County, it's
You
headquarters.
guys
Their
refer to them
911 center,
as
it's
headquarters
headquarters.
there.
And in Lewis County, it's just dispatch.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, luckily, in Mon County, it's just
but
Mecca. We just refer to them as Mecca, literally their name.
yeah, I mean,
So
it's not that big of a
that
deal, but
helps.
it's funny, and I like to give some dispatchers a hard time from time to time. They've got a hard enough job I shouldn't, but
Yeah. Um. Okay, so got to go in your first fire, and you kind of got some some experience. Once you really started to be able to hop on the truck and started to get
yeah.
a good idea of what you were doing, right? Because before you're kind of just like a feather, floating around in the wind, right? Trying to figure out what you're gonna do wherever you landed at. So, um, you know, once
Well,
you
it
got some
was
little
pretty
more
quick.
experience and you decided you want to take a fire
Started
too.
at the end of November. I started Fire One. I think we finished up January ish, end of January, beginning of February, and like 2 weeks later, almost everybody that was in my Fire One class started Fire Two together. Yep. So, which was
So
cool
then you
because we
rolled right
already
into
got
another.
to know each other pretty well
Okay.
going through Fire One. Um, and then it was the same instructors and the same blended concept, and so it just was like a continuation. It didn't feel like I was in another class, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that is nice. That's always like awkwardness when you go
Yeah.
to take a new class and there's all these new faces in here you've never seen, right? And then it's always nice when you see that one familiar face and you're like, oh my god. But I tell you what, it doesn't normally take too long for everybody to start warming up and
Absolutely.
stuff, and you kind of get your own little click going on. I feel like that kind of normally always happens, right? And then you start to feel a lot more comfortable. But you're always nervous. You don't want to be the guy that looks like an idiot in front of everybody that you don't know,
Absolutely.
and
You
they're
don't
looking
want to
like,
be
who the
that
hell
guy. You
even
don't
let
want to
this
be the
kid in this
guy that
class, right?
there's a new rule next
So
time you go to class or go to fire school.
yeah, because of you, yeah, yeah, that's true. Um, so going from fire one, being taught the basics, right? Like,
Yeah.
basically how to function as a firefighter on the fire ground. You dab a little bit on, MVAs and stuff like not really as much as, how to
Yeah.
operate on them. They kind of just give you the ideas of tools you're going to use and stuff like that. And then once you get into fire two, you get into the more advanced, firefighting, um, which to be honest, I think it's a lot of overlap of what you learn in Fire One as far as like the fire suppression portion of it. But the vehicle extrication part of it, I think, is really good. I honestly think that as short as Fire 2 is, you could probably get 1 and 2 together, but just make it a little bit longer. I'm believe me, I'm one of those people that bitch all the time about how, the state complains and we complain and everybody complains of how hard it is to get people. But, the reason why it's hard to get people is there's nobody that is working, 40, 50 hours a week is going
Yeah.
to be able to go 4 times a week to a class for a hobby, right? I mean, essentially that's what it is, and for a hobby. And it just seems like every year they just keep adding more and more and more on top of it. And it's like you're wondering why you have such a shortage because you're not making it easier.
Yeah.
Now, something that they did do that was really good is they started the online, right? Which, like, I'm taking my online fire officer classes right now, which they've greatly, um, help me out by doing that because I can do it at my own pace. If I come home from work and I'll say, "Oh, I'll do 1 or 2 chapters," and that helps. But whenever I would have to, if I'd have to go to class, I'm like, "Crap, man! I just got off of
Yep.
work. I got to go to class. I got to sit in class for 4 hours. Well, then I got to drive home. Well, then I got to, and then I got to get everything ready and get ready for work in the morning. Well, if I can do it online, I come home, do 1 or 2 chapters, and I ain't gonna go nowhere. I can close it down and do what I need to do. So it seems like they are kind of going in the right direction, try to help us out. But I think that um, we need to find a way. And I don't think that anything is not important that's in there, but I think a
There
lot of it
is.
is a lot of
And
duplicate
I
information.
agree to a
And I
point,
think
but I
we can
think
kind of
the reason that the
summarize.
duplicate information is in there because not everything is duplicated. You know what I mean? And my thoughts are, if it's duplicated, it's probably duplicated for a reason, because somebody done messed up, or it's just that important that they want to continue to hammer that in to just like a muscle memory. But I remember going through Fire 2. We were doing one of the search and rescue drills, and it was in one of the live burn trailers that the academy has, and it was just smoke in there. And I mean, at the time when I first joined the fire service, I weighed over 400 pounds. I mean, when I say as a big boy, I was a big boy. I mean, I'm still not little, but not 400 pounds anymore either. And you know, I sucked down a bottle pretty quick, and yeah.
You can, right? If you don't control your breathing, even somebody that's not a very large guy can suck a 45-minute bottle down like it's nothing. Right? When they say
That is a
45
normal
minutes,
breathing rate. That
that's
is
a normal
normal,
breathing rate. You know
we'll
what I
get
mean?
into
That's
EMS side of thing. That's going to bring in tidal
right.
volume. It's going to bring in heart rate. I mean, it's going to bring in a lot of things. There's a lot of yeah.
Right, you're in a
With like an
controlled,
18-year-old.
environment where you're almost sitting on a couch watching TV, not watching cops though. Yeah, not watching cops though, because if I was watching cops, my
But
BP would be high. So I definitely sucked at for. But yeah, so those numbers for
no.
to describe those bottles, it's not. You're never gonna get 45 minutes unless you're an Olympic
Oh,
swimmer.
absolutely. I mean, I think
Then
I
you
think
could
those
probably
are
you could
peak
probably get
athletes at like the age of 18,
it.
19 that they do those studies on. But here I am crawling around like a bull in a china shop, and I suck my bottle pretty well dry. Now, granted, it 2 seconds they can evacuate the smoke that's in the
Mhm,
trailer. However, Chief Greco from the Huntington Fire Department
sure.
was there that day helping do evolutions, and he said, "Fluffy," he's like, "Think." And he's like, "You've went through the fire stuff. We've taught you how to progress and do this. The reason we're doing it this way is because now it's critical thinking. Fire 2 is about taking what you've learned in Fire 1, harnessing it, and giving
Sure.
you the ability to critically think." He's like, "So what are you going to do if this is actually a real fire?" He's like, "You can't just rip your mask off. In a real fire, you just can't hit the evacuation button and
Mhm,
get all the smoke and heat out of the trailer."
right.
He's like, "So what are you going to do? Are
It's
you going to
true.
freak out and piss your pants? Or are you
It's
going to
true.
man up and figure out a solution?" Pretty much. And I mean, that's stuck with me for 10 years now. And so I think that's the importance of kind of double hammering, and the repetitiveness, is because these are things that you're going to have to start to critically think about and critically think on. Um, and I mean, I could be wrong. I didn't write the book. I don't write the curriculum, but just based on my experience and hearing smarter people in the fire service talk about it, that would be my take on it. Yes, I know we're like,
Right, and I understand. Like, I agree with you. Like, you need the knowledge, and to separate the two is so later on it's
mhm,
the first round is for me to teach you what you need to know, and
yep,
then the second round is for me to not say anything and let you do it. For you to kind of get the feel right. You know, if I sit there and I hold your hand, like fire one is me holding your hand, walking you through it. And then fire two is me,
yep.
walking next to you, but letting you do it, right? And I understand that, but like I said, we just keep adding and adding and adding, and I think that it's making it to where I've had a great idea. It'll never happen because it's just they'll always say it's money. Like I think that we need to get to the point to where um you were able to take your fire one exactly how I take my online. I sign on, I take the courses. I think everybody should have that option. Um, you take it at your own pace, so
Right.
it's not set up like. And I don't think you should be able to take 3 years to take it, right? Like, because you're never going to retain it. But when you do complete it, um, you would have like instructors Monday through Friday set up there, um, at the Risa building to be able to go up there and for you to do your practicals. I don't like the whole waiting like 7, 8, 9 months, sometimes 3 or 4 years that I've even seen for certain classes, I think is crazy. Like it's insane. Like I think that as a, the state and stuff, we need to, um, try to make it easier for our firefighters
I
to be able
don't
to get the
disagree at
knowledge that,
all.
that we need, that we
Actually, a
depend on.
couple years ago, I took
I think
instructor
that,
one and two. So, I mean, I have my instructor one and two now. Because of life happens and this and that, I'm not teaching. I would like to get here in 24. I'd like to get to the point where I can get
mm,
hooked up with PSTWV somebody and start doing some teaching. As I get older, I find that I really do enjoy that. But I think that's part of it. And see, kind of what you're describing is similar to what my Fire 1 and Fire 2 experience were. They called it blended learning at that time. And I think we had 6 or 10 classes in person.
mhm,
Um, and they were like Saturday, Sunday. I think it was like maybe 4 total weekends for Fire 1 or something like that, or 6 weekends.
mm,
Um, and it was pretty much all skills. Like we had to do our, you had to give your presentations and do things like that. But as far as the skills portion went,
mhm,
for your practicals, a lot of that was um, going back to your firehouse and learning, having your department teaching you how to do those, practicing those, and then
mhm.
a training officer, a chief, a line officer, something like that, signing you off saying, "Hey, he's completed this. He's good to test." Yeah,
Right. Which is exactly the way that you do it with your evoc, right? Like your evoc, that's exactly what you do it. You still do a driving portion,
yeah,
but they don't have the time to take
yeah,
everybody on the interstate, right? They don't have the time to do certain things that are on there. So that's why you take it back to your department.
yep.
You ride with a certified driver, and they sign off on it.
And that's how
I
we
agree. I
did
think that that
ours.
is a great way of
That's
doing
how
that.
my
Like with your
Fire 1 and Fire
practicals,
2 went.
as long as the
And
person's
it
yeah,
was, and I don't, and I mean, COVID wasn't
that's nice.
thought
It's
of
really
yet. You
nice.
know what I mean? And I know COVID has changed the landscape on how a lot of education gets delivered,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this and that, as well as many other just damning effects. But yeah, that's how my Fire 1 experience was. And then the four of us that were from Jane Lou going through Fire 1 together, some drill nights, instead of working on skills, it was, hey, go get your chapters done. So we'd all sit there with laptops in the meeting room and work on getting our book work done. And yeah, so, and as far as I know, I think some
No, that's really
classes are
nice.
still considered blended. Um, Now, I mean, I've never taken Fire 1 or Fire 2 at like Sissonville at Fire School, but I know they typically offer that every year in the spring. And I know somebody who was in Fire 2, know a few people, and those 2 weekends down there, it was pretty much all your skills. You'd had to have your book work done or something up to that point. Um, yeah,
Right. So wouldn't that be nice if we could get that way, right? Like if we would be able to have at like, at the state, not state,
yeah,
but as like your regional, which like mine is Clarksburg, your regional training center, we'll just say like 1 or 2 weekends a month, you would have an instructor that would be up there or multiple instructors um that say, hey, listen, like, you need to get these done. So you go up there, you complete these, you
yeah,
get signed off on it. Once you get those signed off and stuff, then you're able to go take your test, right? I mean, you have somebody up there Monday through Friday, anyways. They can administer the test. I was actually told, like, when I take my fire officer one now, that well, actually, 1 and 2 is it's a
hmm,
dual parter, but it's gonna be on a computer. So they've actually went to a system now to where you're going to take it on a computer, which I think is
I
crazy
hate
that it's taking that long to
Scantrons, man.
do. We're still doing the Scantrons, right? Like I remember when I'm 28 years old now, and I remember that whenever I was in second grade, we were doing Scantrons. So I think that it's crazy that it's taking this long to get to that point. Um, and that opens up a lot of doors, right? That kind of opens up what I was saying was you could have some instructors that are able to sign you off on what practicals you need. Because to be honest, there's not that many. Whenever I took my Fire One and Fire Two online, which I actually took both those online, I was able
Yep,
to, go a few weekends, like you said, and finish everything. So there, I would think within a year, you would have the ability to complete all your classroom work online, and then go and be able to do your practicals, you know, s- spread out if you have to do it, and then be able to take your test whenever you can at your own pace. I don't think that it should have to be, hey, we have a class here, and then this class goes for 4 months. And then if you missed it because you weren't able to go to the introduction to it, or you were going to miss a practical date on it or something, you
absolutely. And
couldn't take the
it's hard
class.
because, we're,
Um,
and I don't know what the
go ahead.
number is. I know what the number we were always told when I started is 75% of all fire service is, volunteer. And I know those numbers are changing, and volunteerism as a whole in general is just a fleeting concept. But I mean,
It is.
you've got to dedicate, like if you want to do it and you want to do the job and you want to do the work and you just don't want to be the guy that goes and gets the t-shirt. Um, you've got to dedicate some time to it. You've got to
Yeah.
learn, you know what I mean? And it's hard. um I had a family and went through all my fire classes, EMT, and then went to college and got my medic, so it a lot of times it's just
Mhm.
what you're willing to do, time to dedicate, and it's hard because now I feel like I've got less time in the day than I did 10 years ago. Um, like I couldn't imagine me trying to go back through Fire 1 and Fire 2 right
Yeah,
now to
it just
start. I
life
would just say,
changes.
yeah, no, it would have been cool. Um, but but no, I definitely agree that there
Yeah,
there has
yeah,
to be some change. And you know,
yeah. The same thing with the
I,
30-year-old like training. It doesn't work. It doesn't. And I mean, you have guys all the time that tell me, like my chief. And things have obviously changed, and there's a lot of science behind that. That fires are different and stuff, but he was able to go
yeah.
take his fire one and stuff, and he maybe went like a couple weekends, right? Like he wasn't 3, 4 months. Like he had guys that were going to
Well,
take
isn't it
classes
Ohio? Isn't it
Saturday and
Ohio?
Sunday,
They do a
getting a certificate.
36-hour volunteer
They're very
card.
far and in between now.
for fire, I believe. Don't hold me to that number, but I know Ohio does something a little different.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I knew that. I believe because I know Maryland. I think Maryland's about spot on with us. Like I said, I think it's 120 hours. I believe Pennsylvania. So I know that Pennsylvania is really weird. Obviously, in the state of West Virginia, you're not allowed.
Right.
You're not even supposed to be on the apparatus if you don't have Fire One. Uh, you're definitely not allowed inside of a
But
working fire. Obviously, it wouldn't be inside of a fully involved fire. Inside of a working fire without Fire One. Um, you know, state law. Pennsylvania
right.
does not actually. There's no law that states that you have to have Fire One to be on a fire ground or to work a fire. But I do know that uh, most departments mandate that you do have Fire One to be able to operate.
There
I'm
there
sure
there
there's
has to be.
something with insurance where
But
that comes into
but
play
you
with
know
that.
that is a key thing that you just brought up that I think really should be looked at the state fire marshal's office at that level is with volunteerism dying, with people becoming um,
Mm,
becoming internet lawyers and wanting to sue everybody, with everybody having a camera. Sorry,
sure.
and all of that. Like, how are we to get somebody interested by letting them come to the firehouse? Oh, here's an inch and three quarters. Spray some water out in this parking lot. Like, okay, yeah, that's cool. I got to play the fire hose. Or is it going to be better to, let them ride the apparatus at the officer's discretion or the engineer's discretion, whoever's going to be your OIC on that, in your first due, and then you park them in the cab of the truck or you put them in the cold zone, you know what I mean? Where they can be a gopher. They can run and grab spare cylinders. They can change out cylinders in the cold zone where that stuff should be going on, you know what I mean? No, like,
Do you mean just
once
random people more or less doing a
exactly.
ride along, or do you mean once people are
No,
already
I
in
don't
your
mean just
department but don't
general
have
off the
Fire One?
street, like, hey, let's grab Billy Bob, throw him on a
Mm,
truck, and no, I mean if we're trying to get people in the door, and then you come in and are
So,
like, yeah, I think I'd be interested in doing this, and then the department goes, well,
mm,
you've got to take this training before you can ride the truck, and you have to have CPR first aid, you have to have your
mm,
Fire One hazmat awareness and
right.
operations. Sorry. Um,
Yeah, it's operations now. They don't even. Yeah, like it's crazy that now
well, unless you're an
awareness
EMS,
is
and
no
then I have to
longer
do
an
hazmat
acceptable
awareness
thing.
every
It's just
year.
operations now. Right. Whenever I took mine, well, what's crazy, right, is when I took my EMT, uh, and I had to get my awareness certificate.
Yep.
What the? What? Like I have operations. They're like, no, you have to have the awareness certificate, and I'm like, okay, even though I'm above that on
Yep.
the training level, you want me to that I can actually operate on a hazmat incident. But
Yeah.
I would believe that if I could operate, that I would be able to, see that this is a
Yeah.
hazmat
Well,
operation. So that kind of blew my mind when that happened. But I agree, right? I don't think I can probably not even. I could definitely probably maybe on two fingers really count two departments that I know that actually mandate that Fire One rule. Especially when it comes to juniors, if you go to the state fire
yes.
marshal's office, there's actually do's and don'ts for junior firefighters. Don't quote me on this because I don't have it up, but I do believe that it does not actually say anything as far as junior firefighters not being allowed on the apparatus without Fire One. It just says that they're not allowed to operate on the fire ground why there's an active fire, right? Like they can help with rolling hose, they can, blah blah blah. Now, actually, no,
Well,
there's
it's a
some departments that
CYA
don't actually
thing.
even let their juniors on the truck because of that. Because it is right. We have always, in my mind, yeah, I can't speak on behalf of my department on this, but in my mind, I've always thought that the best way to learn is for me to be able to teach you, in a controlled environment, right? Like even though we're on a fire ground, I am, trained enough that I can recognize if you're in a dangerous situation. You know, I personally, and I don't care what anybody thinks about it. Um, I don't personally have a problem with someone without fire one operating a hand line outside of the collapse zone, right? Like I don't want you up on top of the building where it could collapse, but I don't have a problem with you being in the yard, spraying some water into the window. I don't have a problem with that. I think that, I also don't have a problem with you running and grabbing me stuff and bringing it to me. I think the only way really is to learn, right? I mean, you have to do it to learn it. Like I think that we make them go get fire one, and then the first time that they're able to use it, or even really step foot on the truck is, I think the first time you ever have to do something, should not be the first time you've ever seen it done. I think that's very dangerous. Because like we went over earlier about the whole training thing, is we could sit
Yep.
here and we could go up to Clarksburg and we could run these scenarios 50 times. But the first time that I put you in the fire garden, I'm like, all right, do it. And there's 30 other people here and it's complete chaos. That your mind is somewhere else, not on what we did. But if you've got to see that chaos a little bit and it's not so foreign to you,
Yeah, I mean,
then you're like, okay, this is normal.
and that's kind of where you get your hook in them too. You know what I mean? Um, they see the sights. They see the sights.
Right? Yeah. If you just started
Yeah,
out and you've been there for a month and you get to go on a working house fire, and
yeah,
even though you're not really getting to do anything, but you're watching, you're like, holy crap, right? Like that's like you said, that's how you get your hooks into them, and that's how you
abs-
also kind of can get a feel of someone that's it's for them or not. Because like it's kind of crazy to say, hey, go take a 4-month training for something that you
absolutely.
may or may not
And
even want to do once you get
I
it.
know in one of your other episodes you were talking with somebody, and I can't remember who it was, but about alternative, roles in the fire service for folks that aren't necessarily going to go interior or aren't going to be performing the rescue, things like that, but they're going to kind of help support the operation.
Hmm.
And
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think that there's
absolutely.
a lot of roles that got to be filled
And
by different people.
so that's the other important thing too, is just kind of trying to meet the new people where they're at, and just teaching them.
Hmm.
See one, do one, teach one. And on the job training is really important.
Hmm.
Not a police officer, but police officers go to academy for so many weeks, and they come out.
Well, you still do on right. I
Absolutely.
mean, you still do. I mean,
Same with
you
EMS.
still do
You
your
know what I mean?
FTO,
You go
right?
through the
You
class.
still ride
At
around
the
with
end of it,
somebody.
you go take the worst exam in the world. Like I've if I ever let it lapse, I am
Yeah,
done. I will
yeah, it's
never take that
hard,
exam again.
bro.
I will go, become a street sweeper or a
Yeah,
Walmart greeter. Screw that test. But yeah, I mean, yeah,
yeah.
I come out and the state of West Virginia sends me a card that says you're a paramedic, and the National Registry sends me that pretty red, white, and blue card and a patch and says, "Here, you're a paramedic. Go forth and do good things." And then you're like, "Oh shit." But yeah, no. So the on the job training, the FTO time, which in the volunteer fire service, it's kind of hard to do that, unless you're a department that has regular, people that are like dedicated to certain time slots and different things like that. Or if you do like a live in program, if you got a college campus nearby,
Sure.
things like that. But, I mean, I think things are progressing. I think things are getting better than what they were 10 years ago, as far as education goes and how to deliver that education. And but I've always said, firemen were stubborn, um, and tradition is big. And I'm not knocking tradition in the fire service at all. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes we get too caught up in the tradition and we got to take a step back, and we got to get that 30,000-foot view of the situation or the thing that we're trying to change. And sometimes that may go against the grain of tradition a little bit. So I think that we still need to honor that, but find a way to
Yeah, because
do things
the
better,
worst thing
safer.
that
You
we've
know what I mean?
I do. I think
Yep.
like the worst thing ever is like when we say, well, that's the way we've always did things, right? Like, and half the time it's the most like absolutely ridiculous way, right? Like, and you just have guys that are just like think that it's gonna ruin the way that we do things, and half the time the older people that are like, "Holy," when they first probably seen battery tools coming out, right? What's crazy is I actually listened to some tapes from my department in like '97, and 'cause we used to record our meetings, and and in one of the meetings, it's so long ago, it doesn't matter, that they were actually discussing like, hey, there's these new things out, right? Like hydraulic tools, and they're like, how much are they? And back then, they're actually pretty expensive, like $10,000, right, for like just a basic power unit and some spreaders, and they're talking about it and stuff, and they're like, yeah, they're like, well, I think we need to be interested in that, but I think that we need to kind of take a slow approach to it. And it's like, all right, but these are also guys that were, you know, using air chisels, chisel somebody out of a vehicle, and it took them 45 minutes to get somebody out, right? But now you have spreaders that, I gap
Yep.
the door and I could pop it open in 30 seconds and have my patient out. But before, I'm sitting here trying to chisel this whole entire car apart to get the door off, right? And then now it's hilarious because, now we have battery tools. So it's once it got to, to the battery tools, then you had guys that are like, well, we really like these hydraulic tools. They're really reliable. Um, those battery tools don't never be able to, put out the same that these hydraulics will. And then, we got to worry about the batteries and stuff. And then, you get some of these battery tools that are like, whoa, like this is nice. You hop off the
Yep.
rig, you grab it, you go to the car, you pop it, you take it back. You're not getting out, and you're not taking the power unit off the truck and hooking up hydraulic lines, and
Yeah.
you're 10 minutes at the at the party before you even get to do anything. Yeah, and I think we're we're going in the right direction, right? I think at this point right now, within the last 15 years or so, we're being introduced to so much new technology that's changing the way that we're doing things altogether, right? Like it's insane. Like now they have a thing out now with it's called a sand panel, and and it's a sand nozzle. You actually it's integrated into your truck in the pump panel, and I can be interior inside of a fire, which I'm against dry dragging hose in. Just state that like I'm going up the charge line, but I can be at the door, and I don't have to wait for
Okay.
the engineer to charge the line. I can actually charge the line from the nozzle. I can actually see how much water I have available on the truck from the nozzle.
Yeah, but
So we're getting like
I
really,
was gonna say,
really like high
and
tech,
that stuff
right?
is cool.
But
Don't get me
as
wrong.
also,
Tech and
go ahead, go
gadgets
ahead.
and things like that are great until they're not. You know, what was that? Was
Hmm.
that the city of LA who had that electric Rosenbauer that, you know, took a crap on them and things like that? I mean,
They did.
I'm not trying to be like, we need to change things and we need to not be stuck in tradition and then turn around and in the same hand be like, well, but I mean, that stuff is cool and that tech is cool, but how long is it going to last? You know what I mean? Is it smaller departments, more rural departments? Like, is that going to be something that they never see until it becomes, mandated?
Right. So I knew that that was going to come up. So like, hold on. Sorry, bad cough. Yeah. So I mean, and it's that's the way that it is. That's what I was gonna say. Is where I very strong heartedly think that eventually the government needs to step in, and they need to start putting a cap on the prices that we're being charged in the emergency services for life-saving equipment, right? Like these, and I know that these companies use their own money, to develop this stuff. I understand that. I do. But it is out of reach for, like, just to say that you have the 10 big departments, right? They're able to buy this stuff as soon as it hits the market.
Yeah.
Well, us, it may be 5, 6 years before we're really able to buy it. There's some rural departments that,
Yep.
like you said, they'll never state it. They're trying to keep the lights on in the building, not buy something. They're they're trying to keep the lights on in the building. They're not worried about having a fancy nozzle, right? Um, I remember when Lucas's first came out, right? Like you're EMT, you're an emergency field. Um, like nothing does better
Fireman of the
CPR
year.
than a Lucas, right? It's perfect. That's literally what it's designed to do. But yet, right? But when they first came out, they were like, what, $14,000? Well, then you had people that
Yeah.
were looking and they're like, we can't afford this. We can't even put new tires on an ambulance. Let alone buy something that's $14,000. And now the prices have actually started to kind of come down a little bit, and you're able to purchase more. But I think the government needs to step in and look at it and say, "Hey, listen. Yes, we understand that, like, it costs money to develop this, and this costs money to make, but this is,
No, absolutely not. I mean,
it's not
and
feasible
I
for somebody to
definitely
buy this."
agree. They try to put caps and regulations on other things to try to regulate things, but yeah,
Right? They regulate our training, but they don't regulate how much, like right now an apparatus, fire apparatus. I don't know ambulance, but
yep,
you're looking for a basic, custom cab, like upwards of $700,000. Well, there's some departments that, like I said, they're worried about paying their water bill and paying their power bill. They're never buying a new truck. It's actually kind of mind boggling to me, you know,
absolutely.
the age
Um,
of some of these
but the
apparatuses
same
that are still
thing
on the
goes
road.
for. Oh yeah.
Like it's, and
Well,
I know the
the same thing
further
goes
you
on
get
the
down
EMS
south,
side of
it's
things.
worse.
And trucks aren't cheap. Um, doesn't matter if you're doing a ambulance, doing a sprinter, doing a van,
No,
the old
no, they're
turf.
not.
Yeah, man. The old turtle
Oh,
shell.
good old
If you're gonna
ambulance.
go do type 1, if you're gonna go and spec out an international, it at that point in time is you've got to find the need. You got to address the need that you have when it comes to getting an apparatus, whether it be fire or EMS, and then just be mindful of your budget because shit ain't cheap.
Hmm?
And the new stuff breaks quicker than the old stuff did. Um, yeah, yeah.
Which is weird,
It is
right?
weird, and it
Weird how that
doesn't
happens.
make any sense, but that's how it is. And I mean, you can go top of the line on an ambulance, and you can be several hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then heaven forbid you make it a specialty unit like a stroke ambulance. It's got a CAT scan in it, built in. You know what I mean? Um, so we are
Yeah.
seeing both sides. We're seeing, being in fire and EMS, I do get to see a little bit of that, and I mean it's the same thing on the EMS side of things as well, and a lot of times, EMS is just kind of like the redheaded stepchild of healthcare. Um, and that's my claim to it, at least a lot of times. A lot of times we're forgotten or not taken nearly as credible or serious as others. Um, so yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the government. I kind of bunny trailed off there, but yeah, some oversight. Something has to be done. Um,
No, it's
because you would think with the amount of manufacturers there are now for apparatus that it would drive the price down, and instead the price just keeps climbing. Excuse me, climbing.
right. Right, because yeah, I mean, like we'll just say, like I don't, I actually don't know
Right.
any department that's buying them, but we'll just say I buy a set of wood step chalks, right? We'll just say I buy a set, and we'll just say like they're 150, dollars. I don't actually know what the price is because I don't think I know anybody that buys them. We could go to
Yep.
Lowe's, spend $50 on lumber, and make them at our own department, right? Like there's it's sickening. It really is sickening stuff that like that's you have to have. It's not like it's just cool to have. You have to have, and like you can't even
Absolutely.
afford to buy it.
I mean, and
It's
unfortunately, like
crazy.
I said, that
Like it
is
really
that is
is.
something that we see both
So
on the EMS side of things as well as what we see on the fire. Very, very much relatable.
yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes your guys' cost, honestly, with us, with my department being, me being experienced in a volunteer department, our truck's not on the road every single day, right? It's not on the road 24/7. Like I know that like EMS costs are very high, fuel costs and and maintenance and stuff are
Well,
very
like
high. They are. Um, luckily our county was able to pass a levy
right,
to
and some
help
places do
help
that.
with that cost.
And but like for example, so I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're
Um,
good.
but so like when I was working down in Texas, I mean, we would have um I forget how many trucks, how many stations we operate out of, and I work night shift down there. But I mean, a slow night for me in Southeast Texas was 6 calls in 12 hours, and a lot of
Mhm.
times that good lord, included a trip to Houston or a trip to Galveston. Um, yeah, so
Wow.
with that's pretty busy, you know what I mean? And we had our own mechanic shop. Like Acadian, they actually have mechanics that work. And they work in the different, service locations and service areas. Like I said, we had a full on mechanics garage there. Um,
Sure.
do PMs, do tires, do things like that with a plethora of spare ambulances because, well, shit happens.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I think the private sometimes, as far as with the EMS, it seems like they always um have a little bit nicer stuff, right? Because it's hard when it's uh like I don't want to say like government or municipal ran, then it's a little sometimes they buy some of the cheapest stuff, right, just to get by. Like you're required to have it, and this costs $240 for the lowest. For the highest,
yep.
it costs $280, but it could be 15 times
Oh,
better. But you're getting the
absolutely.
240.
And
It's the
that's,
way it
I
goes.
just made this joke the other day at work. I said, as long as I've got enough wheels to get the truck to move and I've got gas in the truck, I'll figure it out. And that's something that, old partners, the people that have been around a while have said. Um, but, uh, but yeah, um, it is. And you've got to try to figure out on the EMS side of things, you got to figure out how you're going to stock and supply your ambulance. You're going to figure out how to have the ambulance on the road. And then you got to figure out a way to give your crews livable, fair wages. Um,
Yeah, because I know that there's some like I said, just from my experience up here, I think Mon's starting their EMTs at like 17, right? And there's some places where you have paramedics they're making 17. There's some probably a little bit further down south. Probably not too far from here. You have some EMTs making like $11 an hour, right? Maybe less. I don't know what the bear is, but probably
yeah,
making less than that in some places. And it's like the girl at Sheets that they're going to get their gas at's making 14.50, but yet
yeah, and,
the only thing she's got to worry about is making sure that she gives you the right change back. And you're on an ambulance,
yep,
saving somebody's grandma, somebody's mom, somebody's dad, somebody's kids.
yeah, and so
And you're making $11 an hour.
it's similar, but it's different. When you get to that side, like on the EMS side of things, where like it is your livelihood, and that's how you pay your bills, and it comes down to
Mhm.
um, you still have to have that same dedication that you do if you're a volunteer fireman. The only difference at that point in time is you just don't get to turn your pager down or turn your radio off because you're sitting at the house and you want to have a beer. I mean, you got to go answer the next call. And you've got to work 2 and 3 jobs.
I agree.
Because, well, milk ain't cheap. and that's the one thing that, slightly
And
different
it keeps
between the
going
fire
up.
and EMS side of things is, we've got to recertify every 2 or every 4 years now. And I think there should be something of that, either a minimum hours of training every year requirement or something like that on the fire side.
I think as far as officer classes go too, just because, I'm taking mine right now, right? And mine's literally a college level class. I'm required to literally do chapters, do quizzes.
Yep.
I have actual homework assignments that I have to do, complete, type up and send in to get graded, right? But guys that did this 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, they went in and sat in the classroom and they said, hey, listen, this is how you run a fire scene. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. And you understand? And they're like, yeah, I understand. That makes sense. And they're like, okay, stamp. And, and that's why sometimes you have guys now they don't know what they're doing. Really, they don't, and they don't know how to handle some of these modern, situations
Yep.
and the way that things are done differently. They're just so stuck in their old ways. Even driving, right? Like just because you were a good driver, 10 years ago,
Isn't that the truth?
doesn't mean you should be driving an emergency vehicle now. Like, it's I think you should have to research. Maybe not every year, because like I said, then we start to get into where, you don't even have the time to barely come around the firehouse anyways. Like there was somebody I had on before that we keep talking about how, he believes that, volunteering is still going to be a thing, but fundraising is going to be out the door. Like he said, you're getting people, now to barely show up when you have a call. It's very hard to have them come and, help you do a gun bash or, a chicken barbecue or a hot dog sale, multiple times. And then also say, hey, we need you here at 3:00 in the morning, because you'll get a structure fire. I think we're getting that way. I think that it's very hard. I think we're going to start getting, more money from the state, more money from the government, because I think that they're realizing that
there's
guys
not
aren't
that
just doing it
drive
for
to
because they
give
want to
back,
do it anymore.
to be
They just
like be selfless, give of yourself to your community or whatever. And no, I definitely agree. I mean, for example,
right.
last year, Jane Lou, because fundraising is hard, and you don't want to copycat your neighbor departments. You know what I mean?
It is. Oh, they don't care about that up here, man. You'll have a chicken barbecue, and a fire department will have a chicken barbecue the same day.
I mean, I get that, and everybody's trying to dip their hand into the honey pot. But like we did a well, absolutely. I mean, by the time you get there might be nothing left, and so that's why I like trying to be innovative with fundraising, and not becoming stagnant with what you do to raise funds. And so we did a bourbon fundraiser last year. We did a barrel pick. A couple of us went down, picked the barrel. Distillery. Yeah. Yep. We went to the distillery, picked it out.
From a distillery?
We picked which barrel we wanted.
Wow.
And then with working through a local liquor store to handle all of the legal beagle stuff. Because ABC will shut you down if you bootleg them. Like it's going to happen. No.
You're not allowed to put it in the back of your truck?
And it was a great fundraiser, and the cool thing was it did not require a ton of membership participation. there's a few of us that handled it. We handled the logistics and things like that. And then a lot of it was handled by the local liquor store that we partnered with for the event to do everything with. And it was just it was a good fundraiser. We had a lot of fun. Um, and we made a little bit of money off of it, and that's the name of the game when it comes to fundraising. Fun is literally the first word of the entire thing. And I feel like a lot of departments have taken fun out of fundraising.
Yeah.
Um,
They have. They make it so money focused. I agree. They make it so money focused, and then you always have some
yeah,
people, and it doesn't matter what department it is. They try to run the whole entire thing. You always have certain people that are mostly involved in it, and then they just kind of want you to show up and just do stuff that they didn't want to do. I think that
yeah,
you have to include everybody from the start, or they're just gonna be like, "Hey, listen, piss
yeah.
off," that was you guys want to do that, you do it.
Well, and a lot
You
of
know what I
times
mean?
it's
And
that
that,
whole
that
mindset.
that's the way
It's
it is.
it's either my way or the
But
highway. And no, and if you think about it, fire and EMS, you
yeah,
get a
that
lot
never works.
of can do go um, type A personalities, and when you get absolutely, and when you get
Sure,
so many of
alpha
those together in
alpha
one confined
personalities,
space,
a lot of
I
alpha
mean, there's
personalities.
bound to be tension from time to time. Um,
Sure, yeah, no, there is, and I love to see people that have a alpha personality. And this is a really weird thing to say, right? I like to see people with ego sometimes, but I like them to recognize that they have an ego, right? But if you're going to have the ego, you have to be able to back it up. You can't have an ego and then
abs-
get put in a situation and not know what the hell you're doing. There's rules with it, right? Like there's rules. If you're gonna have the ego, you can't JD can't be like, I'm the best paramedic in West Virginia, right? But then you get put, oh well, hold on. But
yeah,
then you get put in a situation and then they're like, JD don't know crap. JD don't know what he's doing. But JD's out here telling people that that he's the best. So if you're gonna make outrageous
absolutely. That fine
claims like
line
that, you gotta
between
gotta be able to back it
confidence and
up.
arrogance, and
Yeah, and
that
that's a
yeah,
very
I
that's
mean
like
that
a
line is
pencil line
peach
thin.
fuzz thin,
Like,
and but um, that was the cool thing. Like when I went to North Dakota, it was completely different up there. My time up there working with the natives, some culture shock, and then you ran into just a conflict with some leadership styles up there. And then you I go
mhm,
thousands of miles south into southeast Texas, and Acadian Ambulance Company Ambulance Services. They're huge. They've got 700 trucks on the road in 4 states every day. I mean, that's a pretty big company. Yeah, and they got their shit
that's
together.
crazy.
I mean, I've worked for some.
Sure.
I've had great bosses here at home in the state of West Virginia. Worked for some really great folks. I've worked for some folks that I don't think as highly of, and had some poor experiences there. But in the last 10 years, probably one of my all time favorite jobs was working for Acadian in Southeast Texas. Um, and it was just mind blowing. Yeah, we were busy. Yeah. When you go to Houston, there's 6 hospitals. It's called the Hospital District in downtown Houston, and they're all just on top of each other. Imagine putting 4 more hospitals between Ruby and Mon and make them all the size of children's. And yeah, I mean, it's
Like
just
level one
absolutely crazy.
trauma
And
centers.
that's just in downtown
Yeah.
Houston. That's not even the outlying areas, Crystal Lakes and things like that. So, but going down there, um, it was it was great because again, yeah.
You say Crystal Lake? You talk about Jason? Talk about Jason
Well, I was
Voorhees.
in the
He was
back, so I
driving
don't
the
know.
ambulance down the road. Jason Voorhees is walking down the side of the interstate.
All I know is we ended up showing up
Oh,
at the
good thing.
University of
Good thing you're in the
Texas
back.
Medical Branch, Crystal Lakes Hospital, and well, I mean, I had no idea where I was, but the people were nice. But but again, all those
Yeah.
Type A personalities, and wait,
Right, and it's weird,
and
right?
here I
It's
was
you
an
got to be able to
outsider. You know what
control
I mean? I'm a
that ego.
contract.
I think that.
I'm whatever you want to call it, and it's like
Mhm.
people are testing me, and absolutely,
And some people hate contractors, right? Some people like there's
yeah.
still people these days that'll call you a scab. They will. It's crazy. Like you have some people that literally think you're there to take their job, but like um
Absolutely. I'm there
you're
to
not, right?
gain
You're just trying to earn a living.
experience,
Like you're just trying to like,
to learn something new, maybe share something with them, and just keep moving on. Help them, help me, help you, help you, help me, help you. Yeah. But but again, all those Type A
yeah.
personalities, different different
Yeah.
levels of leadership down there, but it was cohesive, 99.9% of the time. Um, And so when you can get that many cats in one arena and herd them all properly, like that says something. Especially with that attitude, or that
No,
personality type. I don't
it
want to say
does.
attitude because there's such negative connotations with the word attitude anymore. But I think back to Full House, how wooed. But but yeah, so there
Yeah.
is that fine line. And sometimes I think back to when I was in middle school. We had a T-shirt for soccer one year, and it said, "It's better to ride the pine than it is to step off or step on the field and remove all doubt." And pretty much just saying it's better to shut up and sit down than to step
Hmm.
out on the field and make a fool of yourself. And I agree. I applaud the folks that can toe that line with elegance, and then you occasionally get the time where you get that explosion. It's a powder keg, and you get enough of those people around each other, and shit happens.
Yeah. So JD, so kind of we'll try to get a little back on track. We're kind of way down the rabbit hole. So you got your fire too, right? And then you kind of when you get into fire, you kind of get sucked into the medical side of it a little bit, right? You're dealing with, especially on your car wrecks, your cardiac arrest, your traumatic injuries and stuff like that. You kind of uh you know get sucked into it. You do. So with you being in the fire, right? You never had any kind of experience with the medical side of it, and then what made you want to were you
Well,
just running some
yes and
calls and
no.
you're like, hey
My
man,
mom was
this
a
kind of
nurse for 30
interests me a
years,
little bit?
um, and then I had
Okay.
actually went to nursing school years before I got into the fire service, and I had dropped out of nursing school
Hmm.
to chase a pre PA program I got accepted into to go to PA school. Ended up losing my scholarship. Life happens, and but during that time, I had had my CNA license, so like I could work as an aide in the hospital and stuff like that. So I had been in healthcare, just a different side of it. Yeah. Um,
Side of
Yeah,
it, right?
and so it was
Yeah.
it was
Same
kind of like a
building, just different
no-brainer
side
for
of it.
me. It went well with me being in the fire service, and was another avenue to help. And that's literally my all I was going to do. Was the fire department said, "Hey, we'll pay for your EMT class. Go pass it." So, and then I got on the ambulance, and I'm like, "Huh, this is interesting." Um, and I got I got on a truck, got onto a full time job, started out doing transports, and then I got a job doing 911 as well. So, and then the rest is kind of history. Took a couple. No, so interfacility transports.
So you did a little bit of dispatching.
So
Is that what you said? Oh yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, no,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
no.
yeah. I got you. Yep. So you're
We were doing
like
interfacility
the ambulance
transport. So we
dispatcher,
would
right?
do doctor's appointments, dialysis,
Oh,
things like that.
okay, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got you. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. I got you. I got you. So, EMT for a little while. Um, and some people are perfectly fine and always say that they never want to go get their medic, right? They're comfortable being an EMT. What made you want to,
There was a lot of
take that
deciding
next step?
factors because there's a lot of responsibility.
Is it like right there isn't you are now that person that, like you said, is like there's something that's got to be figured out. You got to figure it out, right? When you're the
Yep.
EMT, you know, your scope of practice only goes so far, and then either you have to call for assistance, for a paramedic,
Yeah.
or you're in an ALS truck, and then you have somebody there. Well, then sometimes when you take that next step and you're the paramedic, you are either that person that's coming to
Yeah.
assist or you're already there,
Um,
and you got to figure it out.
I, I wanted to wanted more knowledge, um, and I wanted to be able to help more people. Um, and that's kind of ALS standard of care is kind of where things are going. You're seeing it across the country. Like when I worked down in Southeast Texas, yeah, yeah, ALS. Having a medic on the scene,
You said
at least
ALS.
evaluate
So he
every
said,
patient.
okay.
And when I was working down in Texas, our contracts with the municipalities that we serviced were every 911 call would have a paramedic on scene. Um,
Which is just so hard, right? Because I don't know what it is in West Virginia, but I know that like the
yeah.
numbers between paramedics and EMTs were crazy, right? Like you had so many more EMTs than you had paramedics, and sometimes it's due to that training, right? Like some people are like, "Hey, listen, I can still do this, but not have
Um,
to,
I believe it's pretty
spend
much all
what
of
is
the
it, is it
programs
18
now
months
in
for
the
a
state are
paramedic?"
about a year. Mine, mine, mine was like 11 and a half
Okay,
months,
about a
so
year.
we'll
Okay,
call it a year. Uh,
okay, and then
three and a
EMT like
half,
what 4?
4 months, something like that. I don't know
5?
if Tony's still watching. He taught my class,
Okay,
so
3.5, 4 months. Okay, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he chimes in here. Yeah, yeah. So the numbers are just absolutely crazy, right? So I think that you're saying that you think but on the private side, it's kind of different, right? And I don't know how they're doing it down south,
yep,
but up here, we're seeing a lot more BLS trucks. We're seeing more BLS truck. I don't know the way you guys do it, but the way that they do it up here is you have a BLS
yeah,
truck, but um, you have a supervisor driver on a sprint vehicle that you know can get there. The supervisor obviously is going to be a paramedic, so they're going to be able to respond, um, very quickly. So I don't know if that's kind of the way that they're doing it now is just running more BLS trucks. Obviously, to be honest, it's cheaper, right? I can pay two people $17 an hour instead of paying, two people to ride around. We'll just say on an ALS truck,
yeah.
you're not going to have two paramedics. I guess you could, but it's very rare that you're going to probably do that. Paying them $25 an hour. But like we kind of talked about actually at the firehouse the other day was, you know, EMTs, even in West Virginia are, allowed to
Yep.
do more things than EMTs and like, we'll just say like Maryland are allowed to do, right? Like the scope of practice is a little bit differently. So what it kind of is crazy is, EMTs now is, just like a lay responder, I can, do just about anything that an EMT can do really beyond, giving drugs, right? Like, uh, and so then as you go, EMTs are now their scope of practice keeps moving up and moving up and moving up, right? So, uh, I think that that's kind of how they're getting is like here EMTs are allowed to do a little bit more, So you really need less paramedics for certain things, unless it's like
Yes
more
and
severe
no.
situation,
And
I guess.
like, right.
But like I said, I'm not on the EMS side, so like I'm trying to get your perspective on this, right? Like to me, I wouldn't want to be in
Some
charge of
days
who
it's
goes
like
and who doesn't go.
I'd be
You
okay
know,
with going back to being an EMT. I liked being an EMT, and I love what I do. I mean, don't get me wrong. We
yeah.
all have those days, but a lot of what we do here and this is just my opinion, is medics will,
Hmm.
BLS a lot of things in. And when I went to Texas, like that was not what we did down there. Like Texas rocked my world, and they were like, we want you to be definitive care because your epi in the back of your ambulance is the same epi that's in the ER. All your cardiac beds, they're the same. The same pressors. It's the same. The medications are the same. The administration of those medications are still the same. So slow down, be a medical provider, and treat your
Hmm.
patient. And up here, a lot of times it is, we're just going to give them a little LSD, light sirens, and diesel. Let's get to the hospital. And sometimes, yeah. Um,
Yeah, a little
but
more
at the
low go,
same
right?
time, our protocols here are a lot more restrictive than what they are in Texas, and way more than what they were in North Dakota. We really didn't have protocol in North Dakota.
Hmm.
Um, just national, yeah, just follow national pretty much.
So
Um,
you're just free, really?
but So there's those differences. And I know that the leadership at the state office level is trying to move us forward, um, and try to progress us some, and they're working on that stuff. And I think the state EMS director, everything I've heard about him, the time I've talked to him, real nice guy, just trying to get things where they need to go. And I think our medical director, Dr. P.S. Martin, is going to do great things for us as medics and EMTs here. But until we get to that point, there's a lot of times where we're just not treating patients because there's so many hoops we have to jump through. You know what I mean? With calling medical command and this and that. Um, what?
Yeah. Right. Like it blows my mind that you you can sedate somebody and then call and get orders, but to restrain
Yeah.
somebody,
So
you have to get prior
that's a good
authorization to
argument.
restrain them. Like, which is totally ass backwards, right? Like someone is beating the living crap out of you, so you would think you would take the less, invasive like option and say, hey, well, let's restrain them, and then if they keep it up, then we will sedate them. Well, but I can sit here and put you to sleep before I can, restrain you, but keep you to where you're still available to, to make your medical decisions and everything. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna put you to sleep, and then I can call and say, hey, I'll put this guy to sleep, but I can't call and say, hey,
Yeah, I mean,
we
the
tied this guy up,
argument. Well,
essentially.
and that's
Like
an argument that has been made for
it's
years
crazy.
and years. You know, the fact that I have chemical restraints at my disposal, yet I don't have soft restraints at my disposal, and I think a
Right.
lot of times when a lot of people bring that up, it's well, I can do this, but I can't do that, and it needs to be a let's look at provider and patient safety here. You know, um, and let's make a sound decision on protocol based on what's going to be best for the patient, what's going to what's going to keep us to the letter of the law, and all of that. And that's a lot of stuff that's kind of like way out of my pay grade, so to speak. A lot of people smarter than me, but but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy that I can sit there and give a chemical restraint, and but I have to call for orders to use a soft restraint.
Yeah, but it's pretty. Sorry, turning my fan on. It's starting to go hot. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It really is. That's kind of something that blew my mind.
Yep.
But okay, so started out as an EMT, right? And then then you got your paramedic. Um, just riding on an ambulance. What
No, you're
made
good.
you want to? You can't hear my fan, can you? Hear it? Okay, okay. Making sure it didn't sound like a helicopter's landing on top of my house. Um, so what made you want to get into like private, right? Like, 'cause, obviously you rode around. Uh, I seen, ambulance, like public, and then was it obviously the pay a little bit better?
So,
Is it like the equipment was, is there really a difference? To be honest, like I've never did anything like that, so that's kind of what I'm just trying to get. There may
well,
be somebody that could be on the fence out there. That's like, hey, listen, I'm gonna go private,
so I guess
or
just to have a
they don't
little
want to, or they
clarification, when you
do, or
say
they
go
don't. You know what I mean?
private, um, are you meaning like, okay,
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
or work for a
So, I
private
mean,
EMS service rather than
yeah, in a
yeah,
lot of
that's what I mean.
cases, um, private services sometimes may have more funding because the type of work they're doing is guaranteed pay type of things, whereas opposed to like 911 services are going to have to typically be um, levy based or because where
Like
where where
Medicaid,
EMS
Medicare
makes the
payment,
majority of
yeah,
their money is on transports. And that's why you have agencies like JanCare, like Health Team,
right.
um,
This guaranteed money,
and the other ones throughout the state that's their primary goal is to go out and do these transports and move these patients. Um, Now, I say that like Acadian, for example, they're the largest privately owned ambulance service in the country. However, they're kind of like I guess people around here may compare them to like an AMR or something like that, a multi-state agency. Okay. So,
yeah. I was gonna say I'm familiar with like AMR, like
right.
well, not like
Well, so
totally
the
familiar, but
difference
I've
between
seen it
like
before
AMR
that
and
are private.
Acadian
So
is AMR is actually traded on the stock market, where Acadian is not. Acadian's actually employee owned,
hmm hmm.
is how that works. And but they go out and if anybody from down there is watching,
When you say that, do you mean like they're franchised? Or they like if I
no,
wanted to start one up
no,
here, would I start like my own
it's
EMS
they're
service,
employee
go
owned, and
Acadia up
it's a
here?
lot of it has to go
Okay.
back to retirement and things like that. But it keeps them off of the public market as far as being traded and
hmm
investors and things like that. Um,
Okay.
but
Okay.
yeah. Oh no, you're good, man. So
Yeah, that's okay.
they
I'm just trying to get
they
an
go out and
idea,
they
right? Like,
fill they contract with
yeah.
municipalities or like so where I was at in the market I was in, we were primary 911 in that area.
hmm
But we still did transports between the major hospital systems down there.
Okay.
So we did both. But now once you got over into like if you went over
Right.
to Pasadena, they would do both. But like in the Houston market or the Dallas market, they were just doing interfacility
hmm
transports. So going hospital to hospital, nursing home to hospital, things like that. Um, and then
So hold on. So like what you're how you're describing is I've
mhm,
actually seen like some fire departments that were actually volunteer fire departments, right? And so they didn't lose their fire department per se by going like a civil service route and kind of being owned by the city. Is they offered like fire protection, right? Like they had a contract written up that they would offer fire protection for the municipality, and they would basically bill for the man hours, the fuel, the equipment that was used and stuff like that. So that's kind of like what I get off of that, right?
so I don't
Like is that kind of like how they do it, or like you say, like we're gonna provide 911 like response for you guys, and then so my thing is right if they provide the 911 response. do you also have to have a separate one with like a
Well,
hospital to
yeah,
be able
so they're going
to
to
do the
contract with
transports?
facilities, and that contract's going to be different than like a municipality contract to provide
Hmm.
911 coverage. Um, and it's
Right.
just
Now, does the department that you work for, like, and I'm not trying to like get you like, I normally don't try to ask questions about where people work or anything like that, but I guess like, does your department, do they provide municipality response like 911 and then also
so no, down at
private
Acadian we did
transport, or are they
both.
just private transport?
Yeah, yeah. So it was
Okay, that's what I'm. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm trying to get an idea of. Yeah, because I know how like Jane Care, I know that they do. I think they're literally like, I don't even know. Like I didn't even know there was a thing before about being like second, third due on ambulance, right? But I know that like if there's no available Mon EMS unit that they can respond to emergency call, but they're normally strictly like medical transport. So that's why I
yeah,
didn't
no.
know if
So
like
we
you
had
guys
primary
would answer
contracts in
911
like
calls or if you
Orange
guys just did
County.
transports.
Um, we had parts of southern Jefferson County. We were second
Hmm.
due into the city of Beaumont because Beaumont Fire and EMS obviously had first due. Um,
Okay.
but then, just like Mon EMS
Sure.
goes and will do a transport from, say, Ruby to UPMC, we would do the same thing. We'd go from St. Elizabeth's to, Baylor St. Luke's in Houston or Texas Children's or something along those lines. Um, so operationally, at the ground level,
Okay.
identical to what you have in Mon County. Um, the only difference was,
Okay.
I guess it would be kind of like back in the Star City days where Star City would cover this town of Star City. Um, that's kind of how it is like in Beaumont down there.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Right, and that's what Clarksburg does, or Bridgeport. Like, right, like they have an ambulance. They cover their first due area, but they don't do 911 response outside of their department. Right, I guess
absolutely. And
they
I worked
can,
in
but they don't
Harrison
like
County for a couple years.
initially.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now in
Oh,
Harrison
okay, so you
County,
understand
you
that then? Yeah,
have
yeah,
Harrison County EMS, you have Nutter Fort EMS, you have Anmore Fire and EMS, you've got
yeah.
Bridgeport, and then you have the city of Salem.
A lot.
Um, and that's just
Oh yeah, I
EMS.
kind of forgot about that. Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah,
there. I mean, because now you used to have down. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. So they're now. I guess I could ask you this. You'd probably be able to answer. Do they rotate? Do they? Is there like a rotation on who
So, no,
responds to
everybody has their own
calls, or
independent
how
run
how do they
assignment.
decide that? Like if
Um,
okay, so
Kinda.
they're all zoned out basically.
Yeah,
Is
I
that how
mean,
it is? Like if
for
there's a
the
call in
most
this
part,
zone, then
without.
like in more response, there's a call. Okay,
Yeah,
which is different for me because right, like if there's a call, money message responding, right? Like that's
yeah,
that's yeah. We have just one
yeah. I mean,
primary
and then I'm assuming again
EMS
that's way
agency.
above my pay grade, but um, like the ambulance commission
Yeah.
and the fire commission in the county are going to be the ones who come up with independent response areas and things like that. Um, but yeah, so that's who sets up the first due,
Yeah.
and then most everybody had a mutual aid agreement, um,
Hmm.
and because at the end of the day, yeah, I mean at the end of the day, we're there to try to service the public.
Yeah, that's pretty normal. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I mean that's all that really matters, right?
yeah,
Is like if you don't do a good job for the public, then you're out of business. That's kind of the way it is. Like
yep,
if you don't do a good job, they'll find somebody that will do a good job. That's kind of the way it is. So um now like that you're doing the paramedic and everything. Have you ever thought about furthering your education, going back for that nurse? Because I mean, I always kind of compare it to the time as you're basically a nurse of an ambulance, right? I mean, it's kind of like what you're doing nurse work sometimes. Actually, sometimes
yeah. I mean, our scope
sometimes
is
more,
as a
right?
paramedic,
Um,
especially depending on what part of the country
I,
you're in, will exceed what a nurse's is, and vice versa.
mhm.
Um, And it's funny because that's a common debate. I've had quite frequently as of late, and it's kind of what's led me to my taking this job now as a community paramedic with this company, doing like a mobile urgent care type of thing.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah, I'm
So
back in
so
West
where are you
Virginia.
at right now? You're back in West Virginia? Okay, okay. Now where is this so if you could where is this community? Where are you guys gonna be based
So
out of?
right now our office is in Charleston,
Like or where is
and
it,
we're
right?
gonna
So
have
like
our response
okay.
area is is going to be 30 miles in, or I'm sorry, 30 minutes in any direction of the station. Yes. For now,
Which it will
that
be
is
in
their
Charleston.
first. This will be the first
Okay, okay.
station in the state. Now they have several stations in Ohio. Um,
Okay, so another
they
private
are,
like
but we're a
that's
non-transporting
just now
agency.
set and base up in West
So
Virginia, right?
no, it's not even that.
Really?
It's
So it's
mobile
just
urgent care,
911s.
and it falls under the umbrella of mobile integrated health.
Hmm.
Well, that's okay because
You have to
I'm still
explain
trying
that
to
just for
wrap my
anybody
head
that's
around it
watching that
because
doesn't understand
it's
that,
so different. You know,
including
you go
me,
become a
because I don't understand. I'm over here writing it down, like trying to like connect the dots and like trying to match what's on the right side
well,
of
I
the
was going to
screen
say
to what's on the
before
left
I'd
side of the
go,
screen, trying to match the
Tony
facts.
chimed in and said that fire has nothing to do with the EMS response area. So I misspoke there, but um, oh no, you good.
Yeah, I
I
see
didn't
you
want
said
to
it.
have a
I
squirrel
wasn't gonna
moment and
interrupt you when
forget.
you're talking. I was
But
gonna bring it
so
up. Yeah.
what we're doing is trying to reduce the amount of ER visits by our clients. Um, and it's in partnership with another company that provides like primary care services.
See, I heard about this when I took my EMT. Is they my our instructor was a paramedic, right? I think he said before that they were trying to kind of do something like this, not money EMS, but that was something in the talks that you were going to have basically EMTs or paramedics go to people's houses and you were going to look at their medication, actually see if they're taking their medication, kind of look and see what their issues are, and try to say, hey, listen, like you could prevent yourself from going back in the
Yes, and
hospital.
it's been a
If you
thing
would
that's
do
been going
this or
on
this
for
or this, right?
years. I know Kanawha County was trying to do things, you know, in 2008, 2010. I know there was talk. I know there was a program that was developed coming out of Mount West, but I don't know of anywhere in the state where it is operational like this company is. And
You're the first time that I've actually heard of this. Now that you describe it,
I used to.
Chicago Fire, right? Like I don't know if you watched Chicago Fire. Okay, do you remember when Sylvia and Mouch bought that really piece of crap ambulance that was going to people's houses and checking on them and stuff like that to try to keep them? Because I guess they looked and they seen like, wow, they made a list and they're like, this person called 911 200 times last year. And they basically had a list of what they were doing is going to people's houses to try to say like, hey, why are you calling 911 so much? Like, what can we do to prevent you from doing this? And then they
Yeah.
found out that like those people that were supposed to be taking medication, they weren't taking their medication. They weren't doing it anymore. Like they weren't taking their blood pressure medicine anymore. They weren't taking, medicines that were, like gonna prevent them from being back in the
Yes, and
hospital.
in some
So is
ways
that
that
kind of
is
like
what we're
what you
doing,
guys are kind of doing?
and we're doing it in partnership with nurse practitioners and physicians. And no, nope,
Okay.
it'll
Wow.
just
Okay.
be
So
me and an
you'll
SUV.
respond with them
Um,
to somebody's house. Okay.
and the nurse practitioner,
Wow.
physician,
Okay.
whoever that client's primary is, within the agreement of the company, you know, they're going to send us out to do wound care. They're going to send us out to organize pills. We're going to do lab draws, things like that. And then, you know, if somebody starts to have, if they're in the early stages
Mhm.
of a COPD or a CHF exacerbation, I might be able to give them some steroids, give them a breathing treatment, or give them some fluid if it's pneumonia based, or things like that. Things that you see on the ambulance all the time, and keep them at home. We can start the treatment.
Mm-hmm.
We can, give them some Rocephin, and
That's pretty cool.
the nurse practitioner calls them into their pharmacy, a steroid and an antibiotic, and then we'll go out and check on them a day or two later, or the nurse prac will go out and see them a day or two later. In the company.
Now, does this agency have their
No,
own
it's
doctors and
it's
nurse practitioners, or would
independent
it
of
be
any
somebody from
hospital
the
system
hospital
in
that
the
are smart?
state. Um,
Huh. That's really cool. I mean, I like the idea because you know, more, like, you rode on an ambulance, and I've responded to places before, and
yep,
there's
yep,
a lot of frequent callers that sometimes call every day. Every day, and you
yeah,
really
nope.
can't tell them, I'm not taking you to the hospital, right? So, I mean, so to try to I could not imagine the mind staggering no, cost that you spend on frequent
I've
flyers every
encountered
single
a few
year
that have
transporting them to the hospital.
um, completely used up their Medicare, Medicaid stuff. But this company boasts, I believe it's a 42% reduction in ER visits out of our clients, and that's huge.
Wow.
Um,
Well, pretty. That is huge. So listen, I had an uncle, and I'll talk about this because it's my own business. Um, I had an uncle that had cirrhosis of the liver, and he would go to the hospital. Obviously, he'd get extremely bad, stomach pains, that he would claim they were unbearable. He'd go to the hospital, be in the hospital for like 2-3 weeks. He'd get out. First thing he would do when he got out, go to the liquor store, get him a bottle of vodka, right? He'd have a good time for about a week. Once his cirrhosis started to really act up, call the ambulance. He'd go back to the hospital, be in the hospital for 3 weeks. And it was just over. So funny because my mom used to call him the $1 million man, right? Because he was on state insurance. So, you know, never, didn't cost him a thing. And, and this went on for like years and years and years. And then he finally did pass away. But like, it's insane. Um, I could not imagine the cost of him being in the hospital for 3 weeks, staying in that room. And then how many times he got transported. Like, it was crazy, crazy, crazy.
yep,
And there's thousands of him out there. Thousands and thousands. And that's why people can't ever understand why it costs so
yep,
much for your own insurance and your own care and transports and stuff, is because uh every place essentially is a
yeah.
business, and as a business you have to stay afloat, right? You have to pay your bills.
Oh,
So if it
absolutely.
costs you more money to do something, you're going to pass that cost on, and it's just the way that it goes. So if you're going to if JD's going to the hospital 150 times in the year, and I'm maybe going one,
Yep.
I'm going to pay more because JD's went 100 times, even though I've only went once. And it's just because that company has had to pay for JD to go so much, that I have to pay more. They don't look at it like, Johnny
Yeah,
hasn't went to the hospital. Oh, we're gonna give him a
ambulance
break. That
bills
doesn't
can be
happen.
upwards of thousands of dollars. Um, yeah,
Yeah, think about if you got to get life
it
flighted, right?
the
You have to
cost
sell
of
your
things are
house.
astronomical. But then it's like, and then there's that argument of, well, what cost is too much to save one life? You, you, I mean, I don't have
Yeah,
the answer to that.
I,
Um,
I, I don't have the answer either, right? And that's like the I don't know. It's a very weird situation that we're in, right? And I hear all the time, um, like we're in a really weird um
mhm.
epidemic right now with with opioids, and you have people all the time that say like why is Narcan free and people have to pay for insulin. Can't answer it, right? You hear it 1,000 times, but somebody, there's something somewhere
Absolutely.
where somebody's made that
Well, you
decision.
talk
I don't
about
know,
Narcan and,
but
and an opioid, epidemic.
I think that.
And so, just a fun fact for you that I picked up because in
Mhm,
my 10 years before I had gone to Texas, I'd only ever seen PCP one time in the state of West Virginia. It's pretty
mhm.
common in Texas, in that part of Texas. Yeah. So, you want to know what the antidote for PCP is?
Is it?
Milk. Yep.
I don't know. What
That
is it?
was my.
Really? You guys just
No, but
carry gallons
I
of
mean, you get your
just carry
regulars.
gallons of milk around in the ambulance? You waterboard them in the back of the ambulance with milk? Like, is that what you guys are doing down there? Don't ever let me go to Texas and try to decide that I want to
No,
like
no,
smoke
no.
some PCP or something. I'll be getting waterboarded in the back of
Um,
the ambulance.
I'll never forget
Can't
the
even
day
have a
that
good time in
I was
Texas.
like, "Why
Like,
are you giving this guy milk?" And they're like, "It's the antidote for PCP." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah." I have no idea. I
that's
don't know the
crazy.
science
I wonder
behind it.
what's in the
Maybe
milk
somebody
that
watching smarter than I am that can chime in. But
that person's probably as smart as my great uncle that when I used to get stung by a bee
but
put
it
tobacco on it. That's probably
but it
the same.
works.
Might have been
And
the same person
had a
that came
regular.
up
And
with
I mean,
that.
I worked in Texas for 6 months. So for me to say I had a regular when the call load for the agency in the state of Texas was over 1,000 calls every 24
Yeah.
hours.
Oh, it's probably crazy, right? Like, and I was that a big uh like shock for you, right? Going from what if you don't mind me asking, what when you worked like just public ambulance, which is like what I call it, like one
I've
EMS and
worked
like
at
that.
several agencies throughout the state,
What
but
agency
I
did you
mean, I
work for?
worked in Harrison County. I worked for 3 different agencies in Harrison County. I worked for Lewis County.
Oh yeah, you did say
I
Harrison.
worked,
Yeah,
currently I work part time in Roane County, which we're fairly rural, but we do have a hospital in the county. Um,
yeah.
no,
So like Harrison County, right? Like not like super slow, but not like stupid busy all the time, right? Like there's I imagine the later it gets, the more of a break you get. But I imagine you go to a
well, I
place
was
like,
about an hour. I was on
well,
the
you said
Texas
Houston, right?
Louisiana border,
You said he.
down on the Gulf.
Okay. Right, but like
Oh yeah, I mean
probably stupid,
we
right? Like
don't do
stupid
we didn't do
busy
24-hour shifts down there.
compared to up
Um,
here.
yeah,
Yeah, it'd
it
probably
it
kill you,
it
wouldn't
could
it?
be
You'd probably
bad. I
wreck
mean,
the
we worked
ambulance. Like, I
12
mean,
hour
really,
shifts,
I mean,
and like I said, 5 to 6 calls in a 20 or a 12-hour shift. That was a slow night. Um, so
no, I actually think now, from as far as I know, I think there's maybe one or two crews that's still at Monty MS that actually works a 24-hour
it just
shift.
depends
I think
on.
most places are transitioning over to 12-hour shifts. I think it's hard, right? It's hard on your providers that to give that great patient care. After working a 24-hour shift, like you said, like Morgantown's not
Oh
like
yeah,
I wouldn't say like some nights they get killed, right? Then other nights are kind of slow. But on one
it
of those nights
it
that you're getting killed to work 24 hours, that's dangerous. Very dangerous to expect somebody to be able to, um,
it
you know,
is,
be
and
able to give
not
patient
only is
care
it
when they're
dangerous
sleep
to
deprived.
provide care to patients at that point in time, but it's dangerous to operate an emergency vehicle. I mean, yeah,
Right? Because who doesn't care how much sleep you had? Their lawyer, right? Their lawyer. Like, you miss up, they don't care. They don't care that
yeah,
you've been up for 13, 14 hours and you ran 10 calls. They
yep.
don't care. You made a mistake on their client. Like you took a vow that you'd give, the best patient care that you could possibly give, and you didn't. But
And a
I think
lot
that's
of
why
it
a lot of
just is
places are really just
volume
going to
driven,
12
volume
hours.
dependent. I mean, some places I know still work 24. Some places I know are now piloting 48-hour shifts because the volume. Um, well, yeah. Um, and
Wow.
and the volume
Oh,
is
it's low.
dispersed to get amongst 2 to 3 crews. So having a 48, but then you get 4 days off because that's the other catch is you've got to try to pay
Right.
people enough
Right.
to not have more than one job, or if they're going to have more than one job, you got to try to work things around. I mean, it's a logistical nightmare at some points in time, but so if you can come out and say, hey, listen, my pay may not be as much as the department 20 minutes down the road, but I can give you a 48. Here's our call volume for
Mhm.
the last 3 months. This is what it is historically, whatever, with your forecasting models. And be like, yeah, you get 4 days off every 2 days. And so I think a lot of that comes down to that, but like working Texas, working at Mon, in those, or even like Kanawha County, things like that. What we call city metropolitan areas in the state of West Virginia, um, versus like what we were running down there. Yeah, no, when my 12-hour shift, and if I got held over, even if I got held over an
Oh
hour or
yeah.
two, it was like, oh shit, I'm done. Like, and it's like I used to work at 24 and it was good to go and
Yeah.
cup of coffee, and
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm getting old. I need sleep, and 14 hours is almost just as hard as 24.
Well, different calls too, right? Like you weren't you were responding to. I hate to say it, but like sometimes you're responding to more serious calls, right? Like you had a lot more violence. It's some of that big city violence.
Not really.
Lot more
No,
probably. I assume probably a lot more overdoses
being
down
6 hours
there.
from
Um,
Mexico,
no, no.
you would think that some of that stuff would be worse down there, and in a way it is.
Mhm.
But like down there, we saw a lot of dips, so they're dipping cigarettes in formaldehyde. Yep. Um,
Really,
yeah. Right.
that's the
Let's
smartest
let's
thing
let's
that I've
dip
heard
let's
somebody
dip
do.
this cancer stick in
You're gonna
embalming
smoke something
fluid
that.
and then go smoke it. But we saw that. I
Yeah,
saw a lot of PCP. The
yeah.
humidity is unreal down there. You mix the Texas heat with that beach saltwater humidity,
Oh yeah.
and respiratory calls, just crazy. But while I was down there, I think I had in 6 months maybe 2 overdoses that were heroin, Narcanable, and
Oh, that's crazy, right? Because I
yeah,
mean, you get up here and on a month you can get 9, 10
and
overdoses, right?
and it's
Like it's
crazy.
nothing,
We think
nothing.
about
Like
those
it's
things, and you look at that, and you're like, oh, West Virginia, like we live in an epidemic of opioid abuse, and but down there, it's like they're like, oh, get out
mhm.
of here. No, like we fentanyl everybody. You know what I mean? They got a pain scale of this. It's give them fentanyl, and it's like, yeah, we don't do that at home because, well, you don't know how many people are just addicted
Wow.
to fentanyl, um, or heroin or anything
Yeah,
like that.
that's true.
But yeah, I mean, there is the violent crime rate is higher down there. I was told while I lived down there that Beaumont had the highest murder rate per capita in the country, and I can believe it. Um, but Interstate 10 ran right through our first due
Yeah.
in 2 counties. Interstate 10, Highway 10. Oh, excuse me. It's a superhighway, man. I felt like I was in Germany on the Autobahn. Oh yeah, driving to work, speed limit 70
Really.
or 85. and people passing you like you're sitting still. Um, it's crazy. It's just a
Yeah.
whole different world.
Now that's cool though that you got to travel around a little bit, right? And you kind of got to see, and like you said, the way that different EMS agencies, not only the way they treat their
Mm-hmm.
employees, but just a different demographic, right? Like it's totally different demographic going
North
from
Dakota.
here to Texas,
Yeah,
and then where else before Texas? I'm sorry, somewhere else, right? North Dakota. Okay, that's totally huge difference right there too, right? Over North Dakota to to Texas, and then even back here, like
absolutely.
it's
Um,
it's
the cool
pretty
thing is
crazy.
each area has its own kind of unique environmental um, hurdles that you have to overcome. Obviously, I was in North Dakota in the dead of winter. Um, Christmas Day up there, it was negative 50 degrees, and we had over 4 foot of snow. I,
I just,
I lived right beside the
you had them
hospital,
calling
so
off,
yeah.
but it's normal though, right? But like that's probably normal, right? Like it's nothing for it to be like that. And like down in Texas, it's nothing to work in that heat, nothing to work,
Yep.
outside and the blistering heat, and like it's nothing. You bring 90 degrees up here at that kind of Fahrenheit, or that kind of Fahrenheit, that kind of
Oh yeah.
humidity. You'd have people falling over about dead, right? But you got to Vegas, and when we were out there for our honeymoon, it's 114 degrees, but there's no humidity. It's like 8% humidity. It's very hot.
Yeah,
Like your skin feels like it's burning,
and
but
then
you're
it
not
gets cold.
sweating.
Like I
What is
was
this?
actually just in Vegas a couple
It's
weeks ago,
it's
the end of
weird.
October, and like it was cold, like sweats and
Hmm.
a hoodie weather, and you're thinking, man, we're in the desert. But yeah, it was cool. But the
Yeah,
one thing that
yeah.
kind of like blew my mind when I was in North Dakota was I was running a lot of calls that reminded me of home, of West Virginia. There's a lot of chemical substance
Hmm.
dependency up there. And then on top of that, and of course, for whatever reason, apparently I'm attracted to go work where violent crimes happen because the reservation I was on was one of the third most dangerous in the country. Um, yeah,
Like an Indian
yes,
reservation.
I worked and lived on the reservation for
Okay,
about
cool.
three
So you
months.
worked on the reservation. That's Well, that really changes things too, right? Like I've never been on a reservation, but you know, I imagine it's probably pretty crazy. That's a little weird, especially the way they
They
do
do.
things, right? They got their own laws, they got their own way of
As
doing
long as you
things.
were respectful, I didn't have any issues when I was up there. Got a lot of cool history lessons and things like that. But it's very much, if you've ever watched Longmire, watched Yellowstone, like that is yeah,
Hmm.
a lot of poverty.
A lot of poverty.
Um,
Now, did you guys? I know you worked and lived
there
on the
was a
reservation,
hospital.
but like obviously there wasn't a hospital. So
Yes.
what was the
Yep.
transport
Yep. So
time
there's a
from the reservation?
division
There was a
of
hospital on the reservation. Okay.
Department of Health and Human Services for on the federal level, and it's called IHS, Indian Health Services.
Hmm.
And so we have a hospital. We had an ER. I worked in the
Oh wow.
ER.
Okay. Is
I
it
mean,
pretty like what's condition of those? Are they like you're going in and it's like oh, how do I want to say that? Kind of like if you go to like a WVU, like a Med Express, is it kind of like low level kind of care? I understand it's a hospital, but like
I
how
mean, of course we have a
tech wise is
trauma
it, right? Like it's
room,
you have a trauma,
trauma
like I mean,
bay. Yeah, but they're
right? Well,
much more
everybody
critical
technically has a trauma
access.
room, right? Yeah, but like,
I mean,
like, or
we
what
could
was their
stabilize
capabilities?
most
That's what I
things.
should ask.
But if it was anything major, if it was somebody that was getting
Hmm.
intubated, if it was a major trauma, they were either going to go to
Yeah.
Bismarck, Minot, Grand Forks, or Fargo. And on good roads, Minot's about an hour and 30 minutes
Okay.
by ground. Bismarck is 3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. I did
So if
several
you were
trips to
transporting,
Bismarck. I went to Grand
wow.
Forks, which is like 2.5 hours. I went to Fargo. And these are just ones we didn't fly.
But you know what's crazy? The way you're describing it is people would not believe that there's places in West
Yep.
Virginia that their hospitals are just like that, right? Like if you like, there's some places that if something terribly goes wrong with you, you could be on an ambulance ride for like an hour and a half to get to a decent, healthcare facility. I'm not saying the
Well,
place will let you die,
absolutely.
but if you don't have the capabilities, you don't have the
We
capabilities.
have several critical access hospitals in the state of West Virginia. Um, and they're great for a lot of your run of the mill stuff, but sometimes when you bring in serious patients, it's just overwhelming. It's taxing to their capabilities. So, for sure, and that's kind of what it was like up there.
Right.
And then, of course, just a huge learning curve with like how things worked on the reservation and different things like that. I mean, I had to spend several hours in computer based training um, with like cultural and ethnic diversity and how to handle that. But excuse me, as far as the calls go, I mean, it was similar to like being at home. Overdoses, yeah.
Like
Well,
riding a bike, right? I mean, it's still
well,
the
not
same
even so
care,
much
just
that it was call
different ways of going
volume. Or I'm
about
not
it.
sorry,
Like,
not call volume, but
like you
call
said, like,
type was very similar to what we do here. And that's what I was saying. We saw a lot of
mhm.
diabetics, a lot of respiratory issues. Um, I mean, there was young people in their or mid to late 20s, early 30s that had such bad alcoholic cirrhosis of the liver that like they would glow from the jaundice. It was so bad. Um, I mean,
Yeah, seen
so yeah, it's
seen that
but
before.
the types of calls, the substance abuse, things like that, things that we kind of see here all the time. It was kind of crazy to be, 2,200 miles away from home and feel like
Hmm.
you're at home, except it's flat, cold, and windy. I
Yeah,
mean, you could watch your dog run away from the
yeah.
same spot for 3 days up there.
Um, my gosh. Um, so I'm just going over some stuff in my head, thinking that, we kind of went over you starting out, like, whenever you started out, the firefighter, kind of your little journey going to get where you're at now, kind of starting out as an EMT and then paramedic, and then, now you're on the private side,
Yep.
doing something, kind of totally different than you kind of started out doing, right? Um, which is a big, change in pace. But, kind of what you're getting into is try to
Yep.
prevent, the people that are on the ambulance from having to go there so many times. Kind of preventative care. Um,
No, I
anything
mean,
that
we
you think we missed,
zigzagged, dip dodged,
like
and
right
ducked,
offhand?
but I think we covered a lot of it.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody you kind of want to give a little shout out
I
to?
mean,
Maybe some people
several
that helped you
people.
along the way that you
Tony
right off the bat you
Tony
can think
taught
of?
my EMT class and has dealt with me ever since. I've worked for him a couple different times. Um, I mean, I don't want to not name names, but at the same time, there's too many names that yeah, I don't want to forget them. But I mean, I've
There'll
had
always
I've
be
had some
people
real
you
great
forget about.
partners on the
Yeah.
EMS side of things that have helped me get to where I'm at today and have helped make me be the provider I am. Um, there was one guy that I'll used to call him Pappy, and I thought he was always a really sound, strong paramedic. And he's like, I'm okay, average at best. And just his humility all the time was something. Yeah,
just
Yeah.
to downplay the skill sometimes too, right? Like, and as your career, as you go through your
Yeah.
career, there's some people that you don't really realize made such a big impact on you until they're gone, right? And then years later, you sit back and you're like, wow. You're like, if I would have never met this person, or, had the opportunity to work with them, I'd be totally different, than I am now. Like there's some people that you work with that you didn't really realize how much they taught you until, you sit back later on and you're like, wow. You're like, if I didn't work with this person or
Abs-
whatever, I
a-
wouldn't even know how to,
absolutely.
probably wouldn't even know how to get here.
You know what? I had a partner
You
like
know what
that.
I mean?
At
Like
one
I'd
point in time,
get
we
lost in the
hated each
driveway.
other. Like it was bad. And as fate would have it, we got brought back together as partners, and then we were partnered together through the end of my EMT time up through me becoming a paramedic, and her and her husband have still been great friends and mentors and things like that. So definitely for sure. Um, but yeah, there's definitely way too many people on that list. I could be here all night. It'd be like an award speech.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll ask you the questions. All right. So if you could go back and tell your younger self, like starting out one thing, what would you tell yourself?
Shut up and absorb more and talk less. Um, when I was younger, I doing this. I definitely sometimes will let my mouth outrun my ass, and yeah, that was something. If I could go back and change, I probably would.
No. Um, and then the next one is if you can, be remembered in one word,
Um,
what would it be? So, like, I know that's a weird way of wording that. Like mine, I always give an example. Like mine is dependable. Like I want to be known as that guy that, like, if I show up, people are going to be able to depend on me to know what I'm doing. People aren't going to be like, "Holy shit, Johnny showed up. This whole thing's going to be messed up now, right?" Like if I
yeah,
show up, they're gonna feel like,
I
good that I
mean,
showed
I
up.
think
Like,
not to jump on your bandwagon there, but yeah, dependable is probably one of the best. I mean, because
mhm.
it's just it's an all
You jumped on
encompassing
my
thing
bandwagon.
from that to just being
It
dependable,
is.
not only showing up, but them being able to depend on you that you're going to be able to handle the job, handle the responsibilities. And I want them to look at me and be like, well, you know, JD's here. He's going to handle that. I can go do something else because I don't have to worry about it because it's handled.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's the same way that I am. That's the way that I try to
Yeah.
strive. Like I don't want to be somebody's burden, right? Like that's why, like, if there's something that I don't know, I try to learn it, regardless if I don't ever think I'll use it. Just because if that opportunity ever shows up, and I know how to do it, and I'm the only one in the room, like I feel like no matter what it is, so one person in a room should know how to do it, right? Like you always need that one person. So in certain situations, I'd like to be that person. If I can make a difference. Um, and I'll ask you because it's starting to come up. You gonna go to
I
the
am familiar with it.
Country Fire Conference coming up
I
in
know
January?
Joey,
You familiar with
um,
it?
and I know a lot of them guys from Buchanan. I'm probably not going to be able to go this year, just with starting this new job and it being all new, and we're trying to get our licensure finished up so we can get on the road
Mhm.
operational. So I don't think I'll make it this year. But anybody that is on the fence about going, I will give a shameless plug to Joey and them guys over there. I appreciate what they're doing. I know
Mhm.
guys that went last year and thoroughly enjoyed their time, and I think it'll be a good time. Anytime the Baxa boys are doing something, it's always bound to be a good time. So.
Yeah, no, I will be attending. We're gonna do a live episode there. I'm gonna snag people that are there, bring them
Awesome.
on, do like quick 10-minute segments with them. Try to do like a bunch of little mini episodes. So we're gonna make appearance. That's gonna be January 12th, 13th, and 14th. They're gonna have some classes. They're also gonna have some instructors go over some lectures and stuff like that. I think it's a great class. I believe tickets, they're available right now. If you go to Country Road Fire Conference on Facebook, you can purchase them right off of there. Also, I don't know, have obviously you're in EMS, a lot in, you are in still involved in fire. A lot of PTSD comes with this job. Um, the guys over to Scars podcast do a very good job on, talking about that, discussing that. I don't try to stay away from it, but I like to try to keep mine a little more positive. Um, you know, and those guys do a great job on not making it like a sad episode. Every episode, like they're very good with managing it. Dylan and Patrick, do a really good job with that. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Um, but if you're not, I definitely give those guys a listen over there. Doing great stuff. Um, But JD, I appreciate you coming on, man. I really do. I was trying to find, and I had a bunch of different people. That, like, I'm sure they get tired of listening to us knucklehead firefighters all the time. Um, they do. We bring them out of the house and throw them on the gurney and leave them. So it's nice to bring somebody on that No, I've
Yep.
had some guys that like Dylan, Dylan Oliveto. I don't know if you're familiar with him. I've had some guys that on there, are EMTs and stuff. But I know that that's something that, like, you really um specialize in as more on the EMS side. Um, that's something you've
Yeah,
really,
absolutely.
kind of
I mean, I
taken the
appreciate
front
you
seat with
having
you.
me. I appreciate what you're doing. Exposure.
I, I, tr- I try, man. I really do. Like, whenever I started this out, uh, the whole reason I started was because I'd have guys at the firehouse tell me stories about old guys that used to be there, and they give me
Yep.
5% of a of the story because they couldn't remember it. Um, And, I think that, when we die, all of our stories and all of our knowledge and everything just go away. And that's I've started this to kind of preserve that a little bit and also highlight some of the knowledge, and experience that we have, as West Virginia as a whole with first responders. That's why when I came up with the name, I for the most part, only bring people on from West Virginia because I think that we have a lot of people that, that are I think that, when it comes to fire and, EMS and stuff like that, I think we could run with the best of them. So, I mean, we'll look at you. You started out here and you were able to go to
Yep.
South Dakota and work, and you were able to go, as far down as Texas and work. I mean, they could probably smell, they could probably smell the West Virginia water on you, but,
Well, that's
you
all
know,
right because I wasn't
they
down there
smell the
long
sulfur in
before
the
I
water,
found out
but
that I like to crawfish and boudin. So. I had
yeah.
I have no idea.
What
I
is
know
that
it's a
boudin? That's hog
sausage,
guts, right?
and then they'll make
The
it like in
boudin is?
boudin balls and things like that. And
Yeah.
I, I, t-
Oh, it's probably better you
I
didn't know
mean,
what it was then
even
when you
if it
ate it.
is, it's damn good
I think that's
eating.
hog guts.
Yes. I would go down
Is it?
to Louisiana or Southeast Texas right now just for some boudin balls.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if the opportunity ever
Get on
arises,
Amazon.
maybe
You
I'll.
can actually order. I
I don't
believe it's
think it will around
JP's.
here,
You can get
but
the boudin sausage links. And it's like a broth.
huh? Maybe I'll look into it. My wife probably won't eat them. She's really picky. But all right, thanks, JD, man. Like I said, I really do appreciate you coming on,
All right,
and
thanks,
thanks
Johnny.
everybody for watching, and hope everybody has a good night. Thanks, man.